I'm not just tense, I have anxiety. I don't walk around just tense or on eggshells around here because of Ryan's anxiety behaviors, the food seeking, having to live with a locked kitchen. I have anxiety as a result of caregiving in an intense situation, and it's okay for me to own that. Her saying, "Of course you're anxious. You're human. Of course anyone in this situation would have anxiety." And that was so comforting and validating.
Welcome to Parent Footprint with Dr. Dan. I'm Dr. Dan. This show is about making the world a more loving, accepting, and compassionate place, one parent, one person, and one child at a time. The key to raising healthy and engaged kids is for parents to seek the same in their own lives while striving to be the best versions of themselves each day, no matter who you are or where you came from. With increased awareness, you can be purposeful about leaving a healthy footprint for your children, your family, and all those you care about while living your life to the fullest. Today's show is We Are Brave Together, Heroic, Extraordinary Caregiving Stories from Mothers Hidden in Plain Sight with Jessica Patay. Jessica, a mother of three, is the founder and executive director of We Are Brave Together, a nonprofit organization that supports caregiving moms with children of all types of disabilities and neurodiverse diagnoses. As a caregiver advocate, she is passionate about preserving and protecting the mental health of parent caregivers. Her writing and oversharing journey began in 2012 with her blog, Confetti and Confessions, Truth Telling in Motherhood. In addition, she's the host of the podcast Brave Together with Jessica Patay, and is a sought-out speaker, podcast guest, retreat coordinator, fundraiser, social influencer, and a champion of true self-care practices and their positive effect on motherhood. And finally, her organization has just released their first book, an anthology called, the title of this show, We Are Brave Together, Heroic, Extraordinary Caregiving Stories from Mothers Hidden in Plain Sight. Jessica, welcome to the show.
Thank you. If I'm ever having a bad day, I'm just going to have somebody read my bio
You
to
know,
me.
isn't it? It's like it kind of fills you up and can be kind of uncomfortable at the same time. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Very much so.
You are all that and have done all that. And I just want to congratulate you for starters on this new book, this new anthology. The first of it sounds like of more to come.
Yes. I have it right here.
There it is.
Yes.
That is really, it's beautiful. I had the PDF version, so I can't hold up mine. But it's so alive.
Thank you.
The stories are so alive.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's definitely a labor of love. It was such a great opportunity to give voice to 21 other moms, because I have a big voice that I've been using for quite some time, but to give other moms an opportunity to share what their caregiving experiences are like, the highs, the lows, the hope, the hard, all of it was really a beautiful experience.
The intro, which you write, it's powerful right from the beginning with the dialogue that you share with your therapist. And I just want to go there for everyone
absolutely.
As we unfold your story, your personal story, and We Are Brave Together story, is your therapist saying, wait a second, so if you don't do everything right, or even, I'm paraphrasing, better than right, your son can die. And you're like, yeah, but that's just the way it is for, all of us moms who are caring for children with rare diseases or disabilities. She's like, no. And she went over it and over it. And this dialogue of you coming to the realization of her saying that anxiety comes with this because it's part of the human condition. You actually can't not be anxious in this caregiving situation. And I was wondering, how many years ago did that dialogue take place?
It was in recent years.
Wow.
Honestly, it was probably 2.5 years ago.
Wow. So because you've been at it a long time.
Yep.
Ryan's is 21. How old is Ryan now?
He will be 21 in June.
Right. Okay. So and we'll tell everyone about Ryan, but so you're just doing this and doing this and doing this because this is just what you do, right? When you're in this situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You
Yeah.
just rise up because you
Yeah.
have to. It's not something any of us would have chosen. We always say that, but you rise up because you don't really have a choice. I mean, yes, we do have a choice. We could check out, we could run away, we could, numb out and not really jump full force into advocating and caregiving. But most people don't when they're delivered a diagnosis
Right.
with a child or their children. So you just rise up and do everything that you need to do to care for your child and love your child and keep them safe. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How did that shift? I mean, how did that shift? Getting that feedback of, whoa, wait, you have to start to look at this a little differently.
well, I think in reference to that conversation with the
Yes.
therapist, it did two things for me. It made me realize how much we normalize extreme caregiving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And how we just, because we're so used to it, because we've been doing it for so many years, that it's very easy for us to minimize how intense our lives are. And then it also made me realize, oh, yeah, I'm not just tense. I have anxiety. I don't walk around just
Yeah.
tense or on eggshells around
Right.
here because of Ryan's anxiety behaviors, the food seeking, having to live with a locked kitchen. I have anxiety as a result of caregiving in an intense situation, and it's okay for me to own that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a bad thing. Like, she was so, even though she was so blunt in our exchange, which I really did appreciate, it didn't offend me.
Mm-hmm.
uh
Mm-hmm.
just her saying, of course you're anxious, you're human. Of
Right.
course, anyone in this situation would have anxiety. And that was so comforting and validating.
Mm-hmm. That's what I got from it. I mean, she was very direct, and sometimes that is the tool that is the most effective. that directness. When you say we normalize, are you talking about mothers who are caring for medically fragile, other disabilities, and or society normalizes?
Oh, that's good. I like that. Okay. So I would say definitely yes. We as caregivers, moms or dads, we can definitely minimize, um, because you go on autopilot, right? You have your routines and you have your practices and you have all your caretaking tasks every day. And and in my world, I'm handling behaviors and anxiety way more than I'm handling anything medical.
Mm-hmm.
But within We Are Brave Together, we have such a beautiful mix, and I've had the privilege of hearing hundreds, if not thousands, of stories by now, that I can see that whatever the intensity is, we can minimize it because we're just kind of used to it, and then once in a while, it will hit us. Oh my gosh, this is so. I can't believe I live this life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it hits you all over again. We as a society, I think we can, when we see moms handling or parents handling what's been dealt to them with strength and resilience and a smile on their face and maybe a cute outfit, it's really easy to minimize what other people are going through,
Mm-hmm.
which is, again, why I wanted to do the anthology. Because let's say we're friends and I'm the only friend in your life that that has a child with a disability. It's really easy to minimize how extreme my life is because you're hearing one story.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just, I don't want to blame people that it's like this. I think it's just kind of a human condition that we minimize, or we want to disconnect a little bit from intense pain, right? It's just like it's a preservation thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you hand this book when we all hand this book to family and friends and strangers and they read 22 stories, oh, I never knew. I didn't realize. This is what we're hearing now. I didn't realize. I am so sorry. I didn't realize what your life entails, because I see you so strong, so capable, loving fiercely, advocating fiercely. I really didn't realize the depth and the gravity and the intensity.
Yeah, I'm thinking, as you're talking about with this human condition, we get overwhelmed and uncomfortable with difficulty and pain, and to me it feels very similar when someone has lost someone has passed away,
Yes.
right? And people don't know what to say, so they don't say anything, or time heals, or these things that are just, they miss the mark, but because
Yes.
we don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And certainly with parents who are raising children with disabilities, some which are actually very obvious visibly, and others which are, often invisible. And so
Right.
there's just this that people don't know what to do. And how have you found, before this book, how have you found to bring people into the conversation in a way, because you're all about building community, and you advocate. So what is the bridge? I'm always fascinated about how we increase empathy, awareness, and understanding with others who are outside whatever community that we're trying to bridge to.
I think we have to use our voice. I think we have to not be afraid. I think if we could normalize asking for help, and that's really for all parents. Parenting is not a 1 or 2 person job. We really need a village. They say that, it takes a village, right? It really does. We are not meant to do this alone. And then when you have a child with a diagnosis or multiple diagnoses, we clearly cannot do this journey alone. So I think we need to normalize asking for help from others. I think we have to get brave to do that, to say, could you go to the pharmacy for me? If I don't have to go to the pharmacy and go out in public with my child at least once a week, if someone else could do that errand, it would be really, really great. And that you're not asking for childcare. Yes, we want help with childcare. That's a whole nother topic. But I think we have to get brave to ask for help. We cannot wait for people to offer. Yes, well, I hope that this book sparks people to say, I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to bring you a meal on Mondays, or I will give you a DoorDash card so that you can just order a meal and make it easy for yourself. Or I'm going to order it for you so that there is no decision on your end. And it's coming on Monday. Tell me your dietary preferences or allergies.
Yeah.
So I think it's not easy, but I think the more of us that use our voice to genuinely share our experiences, and not in a way that's bitter or resentful, because everyone's hard is their hard.
Right.
And I definitely was very cynical in the early years and was like, well, no one's hard is this hard, right? But everyone's hard is their hard. It's their definition of hard. It's their challenge. It's their discomfort. And I don't want to minimize that.
Right.
You definitely feel, when you are a parent and a caregiver, that's a whole lot of extra on your plate and a whole lot of extra that's required of you. And yes, all of us wish that there were days where we were just like typical parents without all the extra.
Right.
But I think if we use our voice in a way that invites people in, like my best friends said to me, and none of them, my best friends from high school, this particular group that I'm still tight with, I did an episode on my podcast early on, and I said, you guys have been so supportive and none of you are going through what I'm going through. And they said, well, you let us ask hard questions and you just shared vulnerably what it's like.
Yeah.
And so I think, there's something that we can do, and hopefully when people read these stories and hear more about parent caregiving, that they're going to reach out and offer support and help in tangible ways.
And it can feel overwhelming being on the outside, not knowing what to do, as we talked about, so people don't do anything. But what you just suggested, for people listening, you don't have to have the right thing to say. You don't have to, you literally can say, hey, can I DoorDash you some food next week? Is there anything I can pick up at the store for you? Like, it doesn't have to be rocket science, right? Like, it's these little things that are so helpful.
Right. And I would say, don't say, how can I help? Because that's too overwhelming for a caregiver to then try to organize a meal train or whatever.
Yes.
Offer something specific. I would like to go to the pharmacy for you. I would like to do your Costco run for you. How about if you leave your laundry on the front porch and I'll return it to you the next day? Offer very tangible things. I'm going to drop some groceries off today. Any allergies? Just offer something very, very tangible. Hey, I'll go with you to the next doctor appointment so you don't have to go alone.
Yeah. You talked about, being a parent and a caretaker, and like, why can't I be just like those other parents? Well, you also are.
Yes,
you have two other children.
Right.
So let's talk about your family, because I'm curious about the complexities of, Ryan's your middle. So talk about Ryan, his Prader-Willi, and your other kids, so we understand the package.
Sure. Well, so Luke is my firstborn. He was born in 2000 and he's 23, and life was just, moving along. He was a toddler when Ryan was born. So, I don't think we were probably still sleeping through the night, or not yet sleeping through the night, or it was sporadic. And, toddlers are just, death traps waiting to happen. And then Ryan came along. And we got an early diagnosis when he was 5 weeks of age, because he couldn't suck, he couldn't cry, he could hardly move when he was born. He was born with low muscle tone. And so thankfully we did get an early diagnosis. And then all the early interventions started, OT, PT. Well, when we were in the hospital for a month, not knowing what was wrong, we did work with an OT that specialized in feeding, and she was an angel. Never forget her. And then when we got out of the hospital and we got the diagnosis, again, more OT that specialized in feeding. A physical therapist started coming to our house. And I think by the time Ryan was 1, we started speech therapy. So the early years are very focused on all the milestones. Ryan didn't walk till he was 3, which was actually very delayed even for PWS. PWS, the averages sit at 1, walk at 2, but Ryan was just very low tone, very, very much. He started growth hormone as a baby. And then the early years are all focused on the milestones, like I said. And then in childhood, at some point, you're kind of waiting, like, when is the other shoe going to drop? This insatiable food drive kicks in, because the brain and the body do not tell kids and adults with Prader-Willi syndrome that they've had any food. So that, coupled with underlying obsessiveness and anxiety that's also a part of the syndrome, leads to this food-seeking behavior that is life-threatening. Now, with Ryan, I say it was a slow burn. So he gradually had an increase in his interest in food. It wasn't like, boom, at age 5, he started tantruming for food all day long. We didn't actually have to lock our kitchen until he was 13. And by the time he was 16, we had to be vigilant, meaning don't go to the bathroom and leave the fridge unlocked, because he's going to pay attention and he's going to pounce on that fridge when you walk away. So I am grateful for that. I'm grateful that we didn't have to lock the kitchen when he was 5. I'm grateful that he doesn't break locks trying to get in. The early diagnosis helped tremendously in that we got right into conferences and education about PWS behaviors and having a food schedule and creating food security, which was, a term in our world. So he was always on a schedule. I am very structured by nature, for the most part. So that worked well with me. We don't do seconds. He's on a careful diet. We didn't ever have to count calories, but most people do because there's low metabolism on top of wanting to eat all the time. It's just a crazy double whammy. We've just always followed everything that we were taught from the beginning. And so maybe that has made him feel more secure. He'll never be able to self-regulate, but I'm grateful that he's not breaking locks and breaking the fridge and, tantruming all day for food. He might ask, at 3:30, is it time for dinner? And I'll say, no, we eat around 5 or 5:30. And he can wait, and he won't ever say, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry. He never says that. Some kids do, but he doesn't say that. So, a little bit more about PWS is that it is a spectrum disorder. So, you've got kids that are mildly affected to more moderate to severe. Everyone has the food drive, but it's interesting how it's displayed differently. I'm on a thread with 6 other PWS moms forever, and how the food drive is displayed is different, but it's still there. And I think most of us have our kitchens locked. There's intellectual disability, academic issues. We knew by the time Ryan was in 3rd or 4th grade that he wasn't going to go to college, no matter how many tutors we hired or therapists we hired. I have a couple of friends whose kids are able to go to college. So and that's a small percentage, but again, it's a spectrum on if kids get their diploma, don't get their diploma. But because of the food drive, they're not independent.
Where would you say Ryan is on the spectrum?
I would say he's more impacted. I mean, if you met him, he will ask you great questions. There's maturity that shows, there's a depth and compassion that shows up in him. And he could melt down like a 4-year-old. So if he's triggered about something. So he definitely, has to be watched 24/7. He does not have any friends, like genuine friends. It's very hard in PWS because of kind of the mindset. It's hard. Friend making is very hard. He's very autistic-like. In that missing social cues and not understanding things. Kids and adults with PWS are very egocentric, so they want to talk about what they want to talk about. They want to talk. They want to ask questions and not listen all the way for the answers. So he's pretty impacted. And he's a sweetheart.
How yeah. How do you manage siblings, mothering? You have this primary medically, is it fair to say medically fragile in these situations?
I mean, it is. It is
Yes.
a rare genetic, medically complex disorder.
Yeah. So, hypervigilance. And time and all the intervention. And then you have another child.
2 others.
Right? You have a younger than
Yeah.
Ryan as well. So what, I'm just wondering of your community, how many are only, the difference between a parent of an only child with a disability versus multiple children and having to meet all of those needs.
Right. Well, I appreciate you bringing that up. I think what I've heard through the years of parents of only is that I can't imagine taking care of others too. And, I kind of wish that my kid had siblings. I wish they had their, built-in friends and support. And we all worry about who's going to take care of our kid when we're gone as parents. It's a terrible, terrible thing that we carry. With Luke and Kate, so Kate, I didn't mention Kate, but she is 18, so she's younger than Ryan, but she has definitely been more like the middle child, which happens because she, she caught up and surpassed Ryan pretty quickly. And she definitely has a lot of middle child traits, I would say. She's pretty fantastic. Both Luke and Kate, what they've grown up with, it is not easy. And it's been traumatic for them. I mean, Ryan has gone through periods where he's been really aggressive. They've participated in restraining him, which I wish I never would have allowed that. But there were times that, in the last 5 years, not really. thankfully. But there were times in the past that they saw it for sure. They saw it, and that's awful and traumatic. Like, it's awful and traumatic for me to think back on those times as a parent, as his mom. Um, they are definitely cheerleaders and they love him. And, Luke's like, Mom, Ryan, he is so funny. Can I just tell you what just happened? This was just yesterday. He's so funny. So they tell me great stories and they have a great appreciation for him, and they're scarred. It's both. And
Yeah, there's a lot of that actually reminds me of this quote that I pulled out. You talked about, hold on, it's right here. It was about the brutalness. It's both yes, the beautiful and the brutal coexist in the altered motherhood journey. It's
yeah.
Well, and you mentioned they're scarred. I was wondering, because you can't. We all are impacted by our different childhood experiences, family of origin. And there was I had a prior episode, a guest was talking about well child syndrome. And, just the idea that we just have to be aware of the other siblings who are, quote, well, quote, fine in relative to the sick or the ill or the disabled. And it's just being aware, right? It's just, all of this is just being aware how this stuff cannot not impact our lives.
Right. And no matter how intentional you are as a parent with the siblings, because we did one-on-one trips, one-on-one dates, we would definitely validate, all their feelings, because anything that you feel as a parent, the siblings feel as siblings.
Right.
Everything, all of it. And I felt like we kept the communication lines open, but in recent years when we did do family therapy, which I wish we would have done when the kids were little, before they were teenagers and could say, no, I'm not going. So I highly recommend that. But even so, this is what I tell parents. I've learned so much from Luke and Kate in recent years, and just kind of doing my own research. I've become really passionate about the siblings and what they need, when they grow up with a disabled brother or sister, or a brother or sister who takes up a lot of time and attention because of whatever, fill in the blank. You can never make up for the time, energy, and attention that one child requires. You'll never be able to make that up. You'll never be able to compensate for that with trips, with toys, with material things, and even with quality one-on-one time. It just is. And I think we have to radically accept that. And we still do our best to give attention to the other kids and let them know that their voice matters. And that's one thing I would say to any parents who are starting out. Tell the siblings from the very beginning, your voice matters. And I want to hear your hurts, your needs, your wants, your dreams, your stressors. And I'm not a mind reader. I love you, but I'm not a mind reader. And so I want you to share with me, and I want you to feel free to share with me, because it matters. And I know that so-and-so takes up all the time and energy and attention, but I see you.
That's really important. Really important. I had mentioned family of origin, and if we can go back to yours, because it's interesting, and I just love how the trajectory. I mean, it helped create your community connection and activism, and like what you do naturally, which is a gift and a talent, can be unwound to what your family origin makeup and what you sought growing up.
Yeah. I talked about that right away in the book. I say I grew up in, the Brady Bunch on steroids. Both my parents had been married before. They had 3 kids each, 2 boys and a girl each, when they got together and had my sister Jennifer and I, and then divorced, and my dad remarried for the third time, and I have a stepbrother and stepsister that have been in my life since I was little. So they're my siblings.
Mm-hmm.
It's all I know. And so, but when you are in a Catholic school for 8 years, and this was in Los Alamitos when my parents had already split, and your father is Jewish, your mother is Catholic. Somebody says, how many brothers and sisters do you have? And I'm just like wincing inside. Oh, I don't like this question. It's so hard. It was really hard for me to embrace my unique family. And it wasn't probably until I was in college that I just began to embrace it and accept it and love each person and what
Mm-hmm.
I could learn from each person or, relationship. But because of feeling so different, I found my group of friends, some who also came from divorce. So that was very comforting to have
Mm-hmm.
something in common. Um, and then my girlfriends just became my family.
Mm-hmm.
They just did, and I grew that practice throughout high school, college, into motherhood and special needs motherhood. And I'm all about my groups of friends, and it cemented to me the importance of community. And then especially when we entered the world of Prader-Willi syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
We went to our first support groups when Ryan was a baby. We found our people. We're like, oh my gosh, we don't have to do this alone. Oh, this crazy journey that we've been reading about. We're not going to be alone.
Mm-hmm.
So,
When did you realize you're doing this? Like, we are brave together. Like, you are actually going to lead a community, create and lead one after being a part of so many.
well, I think I knew for many years that I wanted to do something for special needs moms or caregiving moms. I just didn't know what that was. And I think Ryan was probably 7 or 8 maybe by then. And I was just kind of hands open to the universe, God, whatever you want to say. What now? What am I supposed to do? Because I have this desire to do something. And in 2012, I started doing these, what we called fluffy girlfriends retreats with one of my best friends from college. And we'd pick a location and hire a speaker and invite friends and friends of friends and just do these intimate gatherings and have a great girls trip with inspiration infused. And after doing that for maybe 4 years, we turned to each other and said, this is all well and good. This is very expensive. Um,
Mm.
what could we do with this desire and how could we meet a need? Well, who doesn't need a weekend off but
Mm-hmm.
special needs moms? And
Mm-hmm.
so the idea was birthed in 2016, and we just started dreaming and scheming. And she did not go on to co-found We
Mm.
Are Brave together with me because she went back to grad school and work full time, and it just wasn't going to work out. But she said, you have to do this. And she was definitely the wind beneath my wings. Plus,
Mm.
I have an incredibly supportive husband who said, okay, yes, let's do this. And, he funded us until we got our nonprofit status. And then we started fundraising. So we launched in 2017 with the intent to offer support groups and low-cost retreats. Our mission was to combat the isolation, loneliness, burnout that moms face. So we are very focused on moms, still are.
Mm-hmm.
And we've just grown from there. We now represent all the United States and 24 countries.
Wow.
Our podcast has reached, over 80 countries. We have connection circles, which is what we call our support groups, all over the United States, and more to come. We actually even had one in New Zealand and Australia for a little while, which was really exciting to be international in that way. And we just really want moms to feel like they are not alone
Mm-hmm.
and to know that they have other people to go
Mm-hmm.
to at any time.
That is awesome. I mean, that it's not a lot of time has passed, and of course we've gone through a pandemic in that time as well. Actually, did the pandemic accelerate the connections as with so many fields? The virtual nature of life. Did it actually help the growth?
I think, surprisingly, I mean, we kept growing,
Mm,
but it wasn't as exponential as I thought. I thought moms would be running to their computers to connect.
hmm.
But what most people don't realize is the isolation that everyone else was experiencing for the first time, we've experienced for a long time.
Right. Mm,
So it wasn't like, I mean, it was a dramatic change to have our kids with us 24/7 if our kids were in the school system still,
hmm.
if you had school age children, even adults who were in programs that got shut down and they got sent home, that was a dramatic alteration that was just so hard and
Mm, hmm.
devastating. Not to mention for some how scary if their kids were at risk, if their immune systems were compromised, and to hear about this, horrible virus.
Right.
It was a very, very scary time, but it was, I didn't see it as much as I thought I would. We definitely kept growing.
Hmm.
Um, I think moms were just taxed.
Right.
And so that's why
Yeah.
they didn't show up.
And after I said that and listening to you talk, I was thinking, well, depending on your child's condition, you can't just log on. I mean,
Right.
like you have to have your child, depending on the situation, taken care of for you to have that space to even do so. So
Right.
that brings to how do you recommend mothers create space when there often is not a lot?
Well, the first thing I say is that you have to believe that you are worthy of investing in, because I could give you a lot of great ideas how to find or create community. But if you don't believe that you are worthy of investing in, that your mental health matters more than anybody actually in the family, if you're the primary caregiver, then my ideas are just there's going to just be too many obstacles to any ideas that I throw out. So I think you have to shift your mind. Okay, I need to come first, not last. And then you will make the time. You will find the time somehow.
Hmm. You are worthy, people. Right. So one has to internalize the worth. And we know in general motherhood, let alone motherhood with disability, there's this seemingly for so many, again, from caring, invested mothers, the sacrifice becomes part of it. And the lack, and then taking space for oneself then is often seen as selfish. And that is understandable, but we want to switch that mentality.
I do. I do. I think because the word self is in self care, everybody rolls their eyes, everybody thinks it's selfish, but true self care is doing practices, engaging in practices that invest in your mental health. So, getting your nails done is a break, and I call it self comfort. It's not going to invest in your mental health. There's no lasting impact. But engaging in meditation or prayer or a walk or, whatever lights you up or helps you access joy or peace or groundedness, that is true self care. And it's not selfish. It's not selfish, but we have to go against the martyr mom philosophy indoctrination that has been around or maybe was modeled for us with our own parents or grandparents, where everything was about the family and nothing had to do with their own personal interests or hobbies or
Hmm.
practices.
Hmm. Yes, and how do people get creative beyond, okay, I'm worth it. I I need to care for myself. I have value as an individual outside of my role as my often large encompassing role of parent. What are some practical ways to seek that help, seek that space?
Well, I think if you're at a place where you're like, I don't even know what I like to do anymore because I forgot who I am or who I was. Look back and think about the activities that you enjoyed as a kid that you would get lost in. Think about your childhood. Think about things that you really loved doing, and maybe there's something there for you.
Hmm.
I think certainly you can just try. Just
Mm-hmm.
try.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a trial and error process to really find out, oh, I really like this. And this does light me up. And this does help me feel good. This does ground me. For me, lately or last several years, it's yoga.
Mm.
And I love it so much. I didn't discover that until less than 10 years ago and never thought I would do yoga. I love it. That was a late discovery. So you're never too old to learn something new, to try something new. Maybe you feel like I don't have any time, so give me something. Well, we've got resources on our website that are bite-sized ideas for
Mm-hmm.
you to engage in, and you can try. I don't know, there's over 100, I think. I don't know. There's a lot on the list.
Mm-hmm.
It's like bite-sized
Mm-hmm.
self-care suggestions. We have it on our website under resources.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're going to discover that you like paint by number because it's solitary and it feels creative, but there's no pressure to
Right.
paint a mural,
Just follow the
whatever.
rules. Follow the
Just
numbers.
follow the rules,
Yes.
right? That sounds
Yes.
good to me because
Yeah.
I don't paint yet. Anyway, so there's a
Mm.
lot of possibility out there. Um, it doesn't have to be extravagant. It doesn't
Mm.
have to be a big time commitment. It doesn't have to be a gym membership. There's a lot of things that we can do that will really help us. I mean, meditation is free,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of great apps that will help get you started, and that is very grounding.
When you talked about earlier the importance of asking for help, and I know you also write about being vulnerable, and I think a lot of times, like you said, people like, I don't even know what I want. I don't even know who I am. I don't even have energy. And therefore, since I don't know what I'm looking for, I'm not going to ask for any time until I figured out what I need it for. And I'm thinking you're saying it's actually the opposite. Like create some space with some help and support so you can acquaint yourself with yourself, rediscover
Yes,
yourself.
yes, 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 absolutely. Create the space first,
Hmm.
and it will come.
Hmm.
It will come.
Hmm. You wrote, the loneliness of onlyness is detrimental to our mental health. And so much this is at the core, the base of your mission, is to bring people together for this community, so you do not feel alone.
Right.
What do you hear from your people, your community members? What are the like the things that just fill you up, and there are these recurring themes and feedbacks you get?
This was very powerful. One of our team members, one of my board members, said this after maybe her first retreat years ago. Said, "You don't realize how alone you are until you go to a retreat. Then you go to a retreat and realize you're never alone again."
Mm.
That just gave me chills, still gives me chills. Uh, I hear so much gratitude for our gatherings, whether it's the connection circles or our mom mingles, which are social gatherings, or the retreats or other events or half day retreats that we do. The moms are so incredibly grateful to be in an atmosphere with other people who get it, who understand, who have shared experiences, who you don't have to over explain or apologize for your feelings, where you can just be accepted
Mhm.
and loved and seen and understood. So
Mm.
there's so much gratitude flowing. I get so many thank you messages. I've received so many thank you
Mm.
messages through the years. Um, I've heard it said, I feel like I came home
Mm.
when they joined We Are Brave and attended their first in person event. I've heard that I never had this before. Where were you 15, 20 years ago? Um, I I hear that, well, I think once people have experienced a retreat or a connection circle, I would say I'm more partial to in person, but magic can happen online as well, for sure.
Mhm.
But I hear, okay, well, I want to start a connection circle where I live because I want to bring this to other moms because, wow, this was powerful. I didn't realize how much I would like this. In fact, I was kind of afraid to come to a support group. But wow, this was a really powerful experience. So,
Mm. You created this for others, and I'm wondering if there are some unexpected impacts that We Are Brave has had on you that you didn't anticipate.
uh, I mean, I did not anticipate that it would be so joyful and fulfilling for me, but um, it still doesn't feel like work 7 years in.
Mhm.
And I mean, there are parts, schlepping boxes to an event or a retreat, that's
Right.
work. But 99% of it is really enjoyable and fulfilling.
Mm.
And I have never been a CEO before. So I've learned a lot along the way. I'm not tech savvy, but I've learned a lot along the way. So you can learn new things at any
Mhm.
age, which is wonderful.
Mhm.
There have been so many
Mm.
beautiful repercussions that I hoped for, but I didn't know was actually going to happen.
It seems when you say it doesn't feel like work, I know that what I think and what I think many are who's listening were like, "Wow, sign me up for that." I just to it seems like you l live in your authentic self. Like what you do is who you are and vice versa, and that's just beautiful.
Thank you. I feel very lucky. I don't think everyone falls into something that they're naturally passionate uh, for. I think that's kind of a misnomer in our culture with, raising our kids. Find what you're passionate about and everything will be fine. Not necessarily. And it might take a long time before you really figure things out because you don't even know who you are when you're
Mhm.
18 or 24.
Mhm.
Um, I feel very fortunate that so much of who I am, um, passionate about connection and community, passionate about the friendship of women, passionate about gathering,
Mhm.
that all came together to create We Are Brave together. And I feel very grateful and fortunate that I get to do this. And I say work in parentheses.
Yeah.
Um, very fortunate.
Yeah. So this book consists of mom warriors, like just amazing people. Actually, Kelly Coleman, one of your authors, was on the show about 3 months ago,
Oh,
talking
she's so
about
great.
her new awesome book. I'll just pitch it for everyone. It's so amazing. Everything no one tells you about parenting a disabled child. Your guide to the essential systems, services, and supports. And
Yes.
so she's just one that I happen to know who is a powerful force out there in your community. What what are you hoping this first anthology? What are you hoping the impact is?
I hope that family and friends who read the book will offer tangible ways to support families.
Mm.
I hope that for people who it happens to fall into their hands, maybe because they're a parent, that it just increases their compassion and empathy for caregiving. Caregiving hits all of us at some point, whether, if aging parents, you're going to be a caregiver too, or you're a parent to a child with a diagnosis. It hits all of us in some way, or you have a spouse or you have a sibling who gets cancer, so caregiving is not, we're not the only ones, involved in caregiving. So I think the more that we can raise awareness about caregiving and about parent caregiving, I think the better off we are, because there's so many supports and services and resources that we need. So I definitely hope that this book moves people into activism and advocacy, because there are things we need to change in this country so that caregivers are more supported.
Mm-hmm. Taking it all in. All right, Jessica, it is time for our final question, the parent footprint moment question. Here we go. Tell us about a time that you became aware of yourself as an individual, as a mother, or even an awareness of your own parents, and that new awareness had a positive impact on your life, your kids, and or those you love.
I think when I started writing publicly about our journey, it helped me see myself in a new way as a mother and as a voice for fellow mothers. And I think when I started writing, it was definitely in a hard phase. It was 2012 was when I started officially, blogging, back when blogging was more of a thing. I don't really do that anymore, just because I do so much writing for We Are Brave. Um, it helped me see how much love I had for Ryan amidst the chronic hardship and just how hard he was.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that was really powerful and important. And it sounds like, well, of course. But when you're in the muck and the mire of parenting, when you sometimes don't even like your kid,
Mm-hmm.
it was really helpful to me to see through my writing and through people's responses to my writing how much I was in love with Ryan too, even though it was so hard and he was so hard.
Mm. And I appreciate you saying, even when you don't like your kid, because there's those hard times, those hard moments, those hard developmental stages. And for parents, when they have that awareness, they're like, what's wrong with me? What kind of mother, what kind of parent am I? And there are those times when you don't like you do not like that person in the moment. You still love them, but the love is so deep, like you can't access that in those hard moments. So just thank you for normalizing that part of parenthood.
Well, I always say, like, our kids are amazing and then they're awful and then they're amazing again. And it's okay to feel all of that.
Mm-hmm. The complexity of it all.
So complex.
Yeah. Jessica, thank you for this conversation and sharing your story. I don't think it's oversharing. It's wonderful, vulnerable sharing, which
Thank you.
allows everyone else to do the same and move towards health and mental health and connection and support, which we all need, and particularly for parents, mothers who are raising medically fragile, genetically rare disease, and disabled children. And there are a lot of all of these groups when we also add in neurodiversity. Like this is not this is a lot of people. So there's this human connection and experience through these shared experiences that you bring. You have the opportunity to bring people together to go through this together.
Yes. Yes.
So tell everyone where they can find you. We Are Brave, the book, the podcast, all the good stuff.
Thank you. So you can find everything by going to wearebravetogether.org. And if you are a parent to a child with any struggle, any diagnosis, we welcome you to join our community. Our podcast is called Brave Together with Jessica Patay. It's on all the platforms, iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, Stitcher. You can also find it by going to our website. And our book is on Amazon. We have a paperback and a digital version, and it's called Becoming Brave Together. You'll find it if you just put in those 3 words, it'll pop up, and we would love your support. We would love for you to rate and review the book as well, or rate and review the podcast. And certainly you can send us a DM on Instagram at We Are Brave Together. If you have any questions about anything that we offer, we do answer those.
Nice. And everyone, the recent podcasts many are with the authors from the book, sharing parts of their story or their story with then you following up with questions and answers. So it was really powerful to hear the actual voices of the women who wrote their stories.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and also everyone, because I know everyone's busy, these are bite-sized stories. These are stories that you can read on when you catch a break, when you're doing your self-care, and you get this shared experience and then put it down. It's really this really easy format as well.
Oh, thank you for that. I appreciate it. And that was definitely intentional. We wanted it to be digestible.
And it is.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica. Enjoyed this.
Thank you. I did too. Thank you.
Everyone, you know what to do. You're thinking about who you are going to share this episode with because of so many wonderful people in our community who are parents, who are mothers, and we have a lot of people who are raising unique, wonderful human beings, and you are not alone. So thank you for being a part of our community. Thank you for your reviews. They do mean a lot. You know what I'm going to ask you to do. 2 final things. Try to be that person you want your child to become, and ask yourself the guiding question, what footprint do you want to leave? This has been a Peters and Rossi production. Parent Footprint with Dr. Dan is produced by Laura Rossi. Our engineer is Phil Rossi. Theme music is Strummerman, composed and performed by Pro Tunes. Artwork is by Garrett Ross. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Parent Footprint Podcast and on Twitter at Dr. Dan Peters. For more information, go to exactlyrightmedia.com.